There's a lot of outrage about the PlayStation 5 being $700. Excuse me, the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I'll be honest, yeah, $700 is a lot of money. That's a crazy amount to be asking in this market. And I do understand inflation is crazy expensive. You know, the cost that these guys are going through, it's honestly in reference to the R&D to even get to this point of making this console. And I understand that they're going to effectively do the same thing by making them over a period of time and continuing to make them cheaper possibly. However, is the consumer going to see that in the long term? Now, my entire goal with this video was, at first, yeah, I thought the PlayStation 5 Pro price made sense. And it's not to me that it's an outrage, it's more like, damn, this is simply a crazy ass economy we are experiencing. And I also stop and think about it like, is it really that outrageous? In one way, you could say yes. Like, well, why? Who is this console for? And you could say, I'm going to vote with my wallet and turn the other way and make sure that I grab myself a regular PlayStation 5 when I walk out the door. Or you could simply say, I'm not buying anything from PlayStation. It's your right to vote with your money, to be honest. I believe more than anything that it's not really a bad deal. I think of it from the aspect of a long-term decision and a where you are at this current moment in time decision. Simply for the fact that if you don't have a PlayStation 5 and you're on the fence and you're like, hey, I want to get a PlayStation 5. PlayStation just revealed this, and I now have the option of picking between three PlayStation 5s as opposed to two like I previously did before the announcement. Now, I want to make this video specifically for someone who's interested in the market and they're like going through all these outrage videos and seeing how everybody's like, oh my gosh, this makes no sense. Hear me out. First off, if you're in the market to buy a PlayStation 5, it doesn't even come with a terabyte of storage. Yet you're looking at already paying over $400 either way you go. If you intend to buy games digitally, effectively, you are required to buy a hard drive, I'd say within your first year of owning the system. So you might as well be looking at putting up $600 from the very beginning. Now, if you're somebody looking to have a PlayStation 5 with a hard drive, you could possibly get away with buying cheap games which don't eat up a lot of storage. However, again, at some point within your first year, if you buy, let's say, a Call of Duty title, maybe something like Elden Ring. I said something like Elden Ring, excuse me. And we could even say a Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, you're looking at buying yourself a hard drive relatively soon. So let's just say you're like, you know what? I'm gonna buy myself a 2 terabyte hard drive. In both situations, simply because you're looking at price matching them against the PlayStation 5 Pro. It will cost you $700 to get a PlayStation 5 with a disk drive and a 2 terabyte hard drive, about $700 or more with tax. And it may cost you about $700 depending on the type of deal that you get on both the PlayStation 5 and hard drive, if you so happen to find them running a deal on them both simultaneously and you're not getting it refurbished or aftermarket. And just to be clear, I am using brand new prices for this entire video. So, in reference to you getting a brand new PlayStation 5, you're looking at $700. Now, let's say we're still talking about, hey, well, maybe I don't really want to deal with a clutter of discs or buying discs. I'd rather just have a hard drive for my games. Perfectly fine, completely understandable. You're going to be paying about $500 for your digital edition with tax, depending on your state, maybe a little more. Okay, you're looking at getting a hard drive. So again, depending on how you could swing the deal, if you could find a PlayStation 4 a PlayStation 5 digital edition, we could say 430, maybe $400, and possibly a hard drive. Yeah, you're looking at, we could say between 550 to 75 before tax, and we could say 600 to 625. So in that situation, you're saving, at least on the digital front, regarding the PlayStation 5 discless edition. But in reality, would it make sense, in this case, because we haven't seen or utilized the PlayStation 5 Pro in our hands, would a PlayStation 5 digital theoretically be a better deal for you for, we could say, about $75 to $100 less? Mind you, you still had to go out and effectively create this deal for yourself and price match and wait for the right timing. And most importantly, Sony's still selling you a better box regarding the digital edition, meaning you're not looking to buy a disc drive for the PlayStation 5 Pro. Would a PlayStation 5 Pro make more sense for you at that price point, knowing what I just explained? Maybe, yeah, it might make more sense to get 2 terabytes. And this could even make sense for someone who currently has a PlayStation 5 digital edition and they're like, I would rather trade in this digital edition, and let's say that you, as this person who wants another, or better said, a stronger digital edition, but you want to play physical games, you could stop and say, hey, I would rather trade in this PlayStation 5 digital edition if it's in pristine condition, or maybe you could sell it to a friend. You're like, hey, I can make 300 to possibly $350 off this, depending on where they go, who they know, things of that nature. And they're like, hey, I would rather spend $100 to get the disc for the digital edition, get the disc drive for the digital edition, and then save that 200, and then save the rest of the money for a better digital box, effectively. And guess what? Maybe if they put a hard drive in there, maybe they could say, hey, I'll keep that hard drive and still sell this, and I might take a hit. Maybe I'll lose like $50, something like that. So they might end up getting $300 out the deal, but still spending $100 on the disk drive and still pocketing 200 and saying, I'll keep this. Hey, now you're looking at spending $500 for a PlayStation 5 Pro as opposed to $700. So I believe, depending on where you really are at this moment in the market, it really does make sense for who might want it. It's just about looking at the deal and how it makes sense. Now, a lot of people are angry, oh, there's no vertical stand. To be honest, with the PlayStation 5 Slim Revision, there was no vertical stand when that was announced. People made outrage at that, and they're still buying the damn thing. I look at it like this. Sony, to be honest, made a great decision when they made the digital revision and said, you know what? We're actually going to give you the ability to buy a disk drive if you chose to buy this digitally and change your fucking mind. So I think if they're going to sit down and focus on creating a better box, to be honest, in saying we're going to give you $200 extra on this box, and we believe this $200 gives you a better gaming experience. If you already have to pay $500 to get into the ecosystem effectively, Does it make sense as someone who already has that ecosystem or is already integrated in the ecosystem to get a better box? Not really for everyone. And I would say, honestly, no for most people. So, being realistic, why would you, as someone who's never gotten a PlayStation 5, really be bothered by the fact it's $700? Now, I believe personally, if they said, hey, we'll sell you a PlayStation 5 Pro with the DualSense Edge, $700, nobody would have said a thing. That's my personal thoughts. And I believe selling you a Pro controller with a Pro system might have gone over far easier than saying, hey, we're just going to sell you a base DualSense. This is simply speculative in nature. However, the PlayStation 5 Pro does make sense. Is it a crazy ass price? Yes. But that's subjective. To me, do I think it's insane? Not really. Will I buy it? When I believe it's the right time. I ended up getting my PlayStation 5 for $500. I think if I could get a PlayStation 5 Pro for like $450, that's perfect. Will that happen? Who knows? However, you speak it into reality. I ended up getting a PlayStation 4 Pro for less than $300 with games, complete in box, and it was a special edition. So you never know how the cards may fold, and I got my very first PlayStation 4 for $250. But it makes sense at the right time. I didn't get a PlayStation 4 Pro till nearly having a PlayStation 4 like it's coming close to about 10 years now, but I got it like 8 years in, about 8 years in. The PlayStation 4 Pro was on the market in like 2016. So that one was on the market for like the last 4 years, give or take. So it's not really that old, and I got it at a spectacular value. So I believe you give the PlayStation 5 Pro some time, finding it at a price that's much more reasonable for you would make more sense. And I again believe, getting the PlayStation 5 Pro with the disc is $800. I did the math. After tax, it's really like $850, and that's where I am. So I know the conversions in other places are over $1,000. However, again, depending on where you are at this moment in time, that might not make sense for you. However, people buy cars that are over $1,000 and they break down in 2 days. I'm not sitting here advocating for making poor financial decisions if you're not able to do so. However, think in what you can do. Your parameters are only your guidelines, and going outside of those means at this point you could be flying blind. And this is not a financial video, but be realistic with yourself at looking at which one of these consoles makes the most sense for you. Because I believe that this makes sense for everyone. You want a PlayStation 5 Pro and want to play disc-based games, it's $500. Hey, you want to play this PlayStation 5 and you don't necessarily want to have to deal with disc-based gaming, here's this discless edition. Hey, you want this PlayStation 5 and you want to play it with the best settings that we believe, or better said, the best architecture we believe we have built to be able to provide you this particular experience based on these set of credentials the particular person we built this for may have in mind, meaning someone with a crazy high-res screen with the highest refresh rates, yada, 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 could deal with super high resolutions, all this extra technical stuff that not everybody may realistically need to be able to enjoy their gaming experience. We believe that this piece of architecture is worth $700, and we believe that you'll enjoy it for this price. And guess what? Just because they market at $700 doesn't mean it's going to be on the market at $700 its entire life, like the Nintendo Switch has in reference to its price point, which is $300 for a base Switch, $350 for an OLED, and if you want to do it in a budget-friendly format where you don't have detachable Joy-Cons, it's $200 or $199. So there's a lot of options that are being given to people who want to sit down and enjoy these particular ecosystems, especially at what they have to give at a technical level. And it only makes sense to sit down and look at what is being offered based on what's currently on the market. And in reference to Xbox, they decided that this year they're going to release a different special edition. They're going to give you 2 terabytes, and they're going to charge you, I believe it was like $5.99. So for 2 terabytes, they're still going to charge you $100. So a PlayStation 5 for 2 terabytes would still be a $600 console. Let's keep that in mind. If Sony wanted to do a special edition where they're giving you more space, they typically do charge more. We've seen that with the PlayStation 4 Pro and its certain special editions. Most importantly, if we stop and think about a possible PlayStation 5 limited edition, let's say this particular game Sony puts out and they market $5.99, 2 terabytes, let's say The Last of Us Part 3 Special Edition. Would you not perceive that to be a $600 console? And I believe the PlayStation 5 Spider-Man edition was a $600 release. I'm not looking at the numbers on that. However, I'm just going to leave that in here. And I would like to be corrected if what I'm saying is not corrected in the comments. So most importantly, if we did get a PlayStation 5 with 2 terabytes and we were charged $5.99, in this situation, to get a PlayStation 5 Pro for $6.99 with 2 terabytes, and they have made reasonable revisions to say this is a better performing version of the original console we gave you, would the price not make sense? And again, yes, with a disk drive, it is over $1,000, and possibly without a disk drive in some areas, it is still over $1,000. However, a lot of people are acting as if the PlayStation 5 ecosystem, I believe, is not accessible simply because the PlayStation 5 Pro is $699 as their requested market price. It may not stay at that price. Most importantly to me, it's about you buying it when you feel it's worth a price you're willing to pay. And a lot of people thought, a lot of people did what I thought they would do anyway. I figured that they would sit down, see the price. I'm going to buy a disk drive. Ironically, the next day, disk drives were sold out nearly everywhere. And they were going to wait to pay for their pre-orders for the PlayStation 5 Pro, or wait to save up the money to get their PlayStation 5 Pro to play it in, or better said, to enjoy the PlayStation 5 ecosystem in the highest technical aspect that they could. So I just want to really paint this video as the PlayStation 5 Pro really makes sense. You just need to sit down and ask yourself, where am I as far as someone who's looking to get into this ecosystem? Am I someone who's already in this ecosystem, or am I someone who's even interested in possibly looking into obtaining a system from this ecosystem at all? And I'll say this: gaming is honestly cheaper than it's ever been. So, jumping into the PlayStation 5 Pro, if you've never had a PlayStation 5, I would say I would think about that personally. But you can sit down and enjoy a lot of consoles and a lot of other games at the same time for about the same price. You can get quite a few different consoles for just that price and enjoy those games and what they have to offer. Or even if you want to spend half the money, get a PlayStation 5 refurbished. Or get a PlayStation 5 off eBay and see how much you could like hedge your money against. You know, I genuinely believe the PlayStation 5 deserves the right to be in the ecosystem just like the Nintendo Switch OLED. However, people need to sit down and just be more receptive and look at the whole picture of what's being presented. Because at the end of the day, right now we're being presented with a whole bunch of stuff that isn't really worth the price. But I have to ask you, when you look at the other competitors who are making boxes like this, does the price not make sense? And that's the question that I want to leave you with today. So, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.